about this love. About this. About this love. About this love. Love. How you guys doing today? You are tuning into About This Love podcast with myself, Dale, and my beautiful wife, Charel. Say what's up to my peoples.
What's up, peoples?
Hope you guys had a good week. I had a pretty good week for the most part. I mean, it's been raining all week, but for the most part, it's been a good week.
Where you live in Seattle?
I live in Zimbabwe.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm joking. I mean, I think it's on all our platforms that we live in Baltimore, so we live in the Baltimore area. As always, please follow us on social media, which is Facebook and Instagram, which is the only ones that we really do have. And you can also find our podcast anywhere where you can find podcasts, including the new to the podcast platform, Amazon Podcast. So
it's Amazon Music.
Well. I mean, Amazon Music, Amazon Podcast. I mean, if you Google it, Google will take you to the right place. So, me and my wife, we were having a conversation off air. And one of the things we were talking about, expectations for your first year of marriage. Because I have a buddy of mine who got married last year. And we actually went to the wedding. It was beautiful. But I remember they had came to the house before they got married. And we were just talking about marriage and just like, sometimes people ask us like, well, what to expect and A, B, C, and D. And I always tell people, you know, what you can expect. For me, I told my wife, for me, I feel like it's subjectual because it's like your wife may not need what my wife need and your husband may not need or want what I need and want. So it's different. But I think like we can just go over some very basic things to look for because I know one of the most important things that I see that men struggle with, including myself, is that I mean, well, I guess women do too, but I guess because women are a lot less selfish than men are. Men struggle with, I guess, the kind of like having to adjust from being single to now being married. And so I know a lot of brothers that I've spoke to over the years, and some of them have been married, you know, for 10 plus 20 years. But like, you know, in the first few years of marriage, one of the things that people struggle with is just the process of now understanding that it's not just me anymore. It's me and my wife, you know, so it's not just me, it's us. It's funny because I seen this, my wife got me in a TikTok.
I didn't get you in a TikTok. Like
before you, like, I never watched TikTok, but it was a couple's prank, which is funny. We did an episode about that, but it wasn't a bad one. But anyways, the prank was I'm gonna act like I'm going to a barbecue without my wife. So I guess the guy friend calls, hey man, y'all coming to the barbecue today? He was like, yeah man, I'm coming. He was like, yeah, oh, your wife coming? Or your girl coming? Cool, I'm coming. Well, my girl, she can't come, but I'll be there though. His wife like, no, I can't come. No, don't say that. How you gonna invite yourself to a barbecue and not bring me? She was like, no, I can't come. And she was yelling on the phone. He was like, hold on real quick. He was like, you're not coming, but it was a prank. But I thought it was funny. But
I was about to say that don't sound funny at all.
Well, I mean, it was funny because like, you know, you could tell she was getting frustrated, and the friend was in on the prank. Long story short, I don't want to go on a rabbit trail. The funny part about it is that when people get married, men do that for real, and they don't be playing; they be dead serious. Because I used to do a lot too. You know, I used to go places. My wife like, where you going? I'm going to my buddy house for a barbecue to get a pool. Oh, we are? And we're like, yeah, I am. I didn't think you wanted to go, so I'm just go over there by myself.
Oh, no, hold on. Let's get this clear. Like, I was going, but, I mean...
There was a couple times you actually didn't go, if you
I mean,
honest.
Yes, but the invitation was always extended to me, unless it was specifically like, this is a men's, you know, fellowship, a men's get-together or whatever, and no one's wives are coming because the men's are coming together to talk about, you know, like, the men's issues or, you know, just things like that.
I was going to a coworker house. Wasn't nobody discussing no issues.
No, I'm saying those were the times
barbecuing, eating food, and
Dale,
talking trash.
What I'm saying is those were the times where the invite may not have been extended to me. Not the fact that I was choosing not to go, because I remember you going to those barbecues.
Well, it's a few times where I went and you chose not to go. So don't try to act
No, but what I'm saying is that don't think that the invitation. No, I'm trying to just get the point across that the invitation was extended because what you're saying exactly from the example or the prank, what you're saying is that, you know, the invitation don't be extended like in a lot of marriages.
Yeah, I mean, well, okay, I'm glad my better half gave her input on that. So how do you feel about that then? Like when we first got married and I would make a lot of decisions and and to be honest, I don't even think people do it on purpose. I think it's just like, it's kind of like when you work a schedule with your job and they switch you schedules to whatever other schedule, but your body still wakes up as if it's on that schedule that you're used to doing. So I feel like oftentimes when people get married, men don't do it on purpose, but I feel like it's just natural. Like, yeah, I'm gone, baby. I see you. We're like, wait a minute, where you going? What we doing? You know what I'm saying? So I feel like it's natural, but I think the problem where it becomes a problem is if my wife, calls me out on it and say, hey, can you stop doing that? Like, can you stop making plans without first checking in with me to see if I had plans to do, or if I had something for us to do, or whatever. So I think that's where the problem comes into place, is that, like, if your wife or spouse is cool with that, then it's fine. But if they're not cool with that and you just continue to do that, then I think that's where it becomes a problem.
Okay, so what was your question again?
Well, how did you feel when I would do that? And did you see it as a problem? And how do we kind of get through that? Or how do we kind of like talk through that? Because I don't feel like it was a big issue that we couldn't just talk about it. And okay, man, I know you feel that way.
I don't know. I mean, like, if you would have asked me when we first got married, my perception of like the situation probably would have been much different, because we're talking about expectations in the beginning of a marriage. It's just like, I expected it to be like, I don't know. It kind of takes me back to grade school where, I'm writing down like, oh, like Mrs. Charel Skinner in my, on my binder or in my notebook kind of thing. So it's almost like I'm expecting, like I expected everything just to, like, pretty much I expected us to be one on day one.
Yeah, but that's not practical though.
I mean, I know it's not, but as a young girl coming into marriage, or just anyone who's like newly married, I think that's the expectation. It's just like, okay, on this day one, we a unit. We've been doing good so far, like before getting married. And now, we just got the last name. And then it just seems like something shifts, if that makes sense. Like, it's almost like...
In a good way or in a bad way?
I mean, it could be like, it could feel like it's a bad way, because there's a shift, and it's kind of like, hold on. We was doing good. We was in love. Where'd the love go? Like, what's that Black Eyed Peas song? Where's the love?
I mean, I feel like and it's interesting because I know we talked about this on one of our previous podcasts, but the couple who actually gave us marital counsel, which is he is like, but he's a father figure to me. I've known him since I've been like 19 years old. Good brother in Christ. Him and his wife been married 17 plus years. So before we got married, and even after we got married, even still to this day, we get counseling from them. But one of the things that he said to me was that, I don't think you guys are gonna go into marriage on the first day and have it all intact, have it all together. That's just not practical. And I think oftentimes that's where people's idea of marriage kind of gets ruined, because they think, yeah, we're going to have a good marriage, blah, blah. And then you get in there and you realize that's not the reality of it. Your husband's idea of marriage is different from yours, and yours is different from his. It's kind of like going to the gym. I remember when we first got married, even before I got married, I used to go to the gym all the time. We actually would go together. So she would go with me sometimes, but I would go to the gym all the time, and I run on the treadmill, lift weights and stuff. And it came very easy to me. But I remember when I first started doing it, it was very difficult. It's very difficult to the point where I actually wanted to stop. I know for me, working out the first few weeks to a month when I first started out was difficult. And oftentimes I would go to the gym and then not go to the gym. And it's just like a kind of wishy-washy. But as my body and muscles became more acclimated to going to the gym, it became not, I won't say easy, but it wasn't difficult anymore either. And I began to see results. I feel like a lot of people go into marriage with the same mentality. They go into marriage thinking, oh, it's going to be a cakewalk. It's going to be a breeze. I'm going to have a lot of good sex, a lot of vacations.
No arguments.
No arguments. He going to understand, what I mean. She going to understand what I mean. And then you go into it and you realize that's far from the truth.
Well, actually, can I just say this? I mean, I feel like especially people who have the same like moral beliefs and the same faith, I think that assumption that we're on the
same page.
Yeah, and we're going to be on the same page about everything. And if we disagree, then we just disagree. Like, I think it's this idea that, oh, well, one of us will just like come to terms with what the other one is saying. And a lot of times it's not like that. And I feel like it can become heartbreaking, because it's like, why don't you see it my way? And I think the first year of marriage, you just feel like, I don't know, like I put it this way to a friend of mine, where I was just kind of like, y'all trying to control each other. You're just trying to get your spouse to see things your way, but really, and vice versa. But really, I think that what it should be focused on is how you two operate and how you two view things, and
learn to understand each other and each other's point of view.
Yeah, exactly. Because, if you're just bashing your spouse that whole first year.
I know a cat that was married for like 6 months and he got divorced. I mean, actually,
that's unfortunate.
I know a few cats, yeah, because I'm like, and one of them was a pastor. I mean, but it's like years ago. I remember I was like, man, how your wife doing? He like, man, I ain't married no more, brother.
Wow.
I had to cut that bra loose. I was like, man.
Oh, Lord. Well, that's really unfortunate. I mean, that's sad to hear.
I know for me as a believer, somebody who believes in Yahshua, Jesus Christ, God the Father, the Holy Spirit, I feel like, one, nothing in marriage is too big for you to overcome or for you to conquer. Two, I feel like for those who see us as a married couple who have faith in the Most High God, Yahshua, Jesus Christ, Holy Spirit, I feel like for us, it gives people a distaste for God when they see if me and my wife were to get a divorce. It's like, man, you're supposed to be believers. Y'all supposed to be pillars in God's kingdom, and y'all got a divorce? Man, ain't no chance for me then, because people really begin to feel that way, and it reminded me of a scripture in Luke where Jesus says, if you're going to build a house, will you not first consider the costs? And I feel like oftentimes, if I'm going to go ahead and be all the way 100, really be raw, people just get married because of the perception of it. They done seen Sex in the City. They done seen Remy Ma and Pat Poose on Love and Hip Hop. They think good sex and you on the beach eating shrimp and oysters and sushi and drinking good alcohol and everybody happy and you got a great job. It's like most of the time, like I know me and my wife, after a year and a half of being married, she got sick and had to come off her job. So we went from a 2-income house to a 1-income house. And then next week I broke my hand. So we went from a 2-income house to a 0-income house.
Oh my God.
So I'm just saying, but for us, it was beautiful because one of the things that somebody told us, one of our friends was like, look, man, don't focus on, what you don't have, but focus on your relationship you have with your wife and how you can begin to really begin to flourish and build it up. And we did. We spent a lot of time together. During my time of being out for work, we spent a lot of time together. And I think that's really what solidified our marriage and how we got closer. Because I was off. I was looking at Joko every day for like 3-4 months straight. Every day I was in her face every day. So it's like it really solidified our marriage. So I say that to say that one of the requirements or expectations that we set for ourselves is that divorce is not an option. And it's like if you are a believer in God, you have to go into marriage with the mindset. Divorce is not an option. Because what it is, if you really want to be 100%, people get butthurt. People get offended. People get sensitive. People get offended. Oh, well, she didn't ask me if I wanted to have sex today, or he didn't tell me that the outfit I had on was pretty, or, I'm sure these are very, very serious things in marriage, but it's like, especially when they linger on, but I feel like oftentimes, instead of just coming to a place where people can just talk these things out, even if you got to talk about it every day, people just get into a place where they just get butthurt. They get easily offended. And then it's like, I don't want to talk to you. You don't want to talk to me. Well, I ain't talking unless she talk. Well, I ain't saying I'm sorry unless he says sorry. So then you get to a place where it's like you just begin to get real bitter and it pushes you two further and further away from each other, And I feel like that's one of the expectations that you should really have in your marriage the first year is that there should never be a long period of silence between you two.
Silence, because it could be a long period of arguing, and that could also cause like bitterness and other things. I definitely get what you're saying, but because I know like the heart behind what you're saying, which is like you're saying that people will get butthurt, but really it's just like you don't realize how little this issue can be because a lot of couples actually go through
what you're going through.
Yeah, what you're going through. Now, we've said it on a previous podcast. If there's like physical abuse, you really need to seek help for that. You know what I'm saying? But beyond that, let's say it's you guys have a disagreement or you feel like one spouse is being controlling or you feel like one spouse is not, seeing your efforts and you're trying and you're tired of trying and y'all only like 6 to 9 months in and it's like, imagine the couples who are 10 years in and they're still trying. They're still trying to get their spouse to like grow into some things. The one thing I thought about was just how 1 Corinthians 13, just talks about what love is. And we say we love people, right? It's like, okay, if you love someone, what is the requirement to love somebody? Like you say you love your spouse, But what is that requirement? And we talked about that in a previous podcast as well. It's just like, what is the requirement of love? What does that actually look like practically? But in your first year of marriage, it's kind of like, yeah, like the rose colored glasses comes off. It does. And it's kind of like
infatuation wears off.
Yeah, that infatuation wears off. And you're just sitting there like, why did we get married? You might even feel like, at one point it was God's sin. And then you telling everybody that this was a God-sent relationship. And then all of a sudden, you're not feeling that the Lord sent this. You feeling like you made a big mistake. And it's like, no, you guys are becoming one. So what does that look like? That looks like you dying to yourself, meaning you put your needs to the side, and not all the time, right? You might put your needs and desires to the side to just kind of cater a little bit more to your spouse. And sometimes even doing that to the point where they're not doing that in return. I mean, when you think about your relationship, let's say just on a surface level, you think about your relationship with God. So many years you've probably gone on just kind of thinking about yourself, like not even thinking about like what the Lord may have you to do in that time, or, the Lord wanting a relationship with you. And it's kind of like, man, but the Lord was waiting right there for me. And I'm saying this as an example because that's something that's kept me in my marriage. When this joker start cutting up and cutting a fool, and I mean, just being a person, being a human being, just like I'm at times showing my flesh. I'm being human. I'm being a person. You know what I'm saying? We can't just walk around and be in spirit 24/7. You know what I'm saying? And praising the Lord. And, oh, that was a blessing. Like, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But I am also I'm clothed in flesh. So I'm human, and I'm going to do these things. I'm just going to do certain things, right? Yeah. It's like the Lord was still there, just ready to accept me with loving arms. And so let's say like your spouse, you see your spouse as being a butt, right? You see your spouse is, kind of putting you down. And it's like, because you see that, the requirement, what is the Lord requiring of you to get through that? And I'm not saying it out of a place of, oh, you need to know and this and that. I mean, sometimes it's hard to know, but I mean, if you clearly see it, I would begin to start praying about those things, because that is what's going to get you through these difficult times. And when I say difficult times, I mean, you putting down some things and becoming one with your spouse. Like that's not easy. You want to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the problems, without problems, the issues that you will find with a lot of people in marriage is that they don't actually go into a marital relationship understanding what it is they actually want and need. And sometimes those things kind of just come along as you're married and living life. You begin to understand what you want and need based on what you're not getting. And I think that it's just always good in marriage to always let your spouse know what you want and what you need, and also discuss things that I'll say violate, but just things that would make you feel very uncomfortable, like things that are just a no. Like that's one of the things that me and my wife had to discuss in our marriage, like these things that we just wouldn't do, things that would actually violate a person. And when doing that, the other person who is hearing the things that the other person is saying, what A, B, C, and D violates me, you really have to listen. And what violates my wife may not violate me. So if she's saying, hey, listen, I don't like it when you yell and scream. I was brought up in an environment where that's all people did. When that happens, it makes me shut down. She's letting me know that when I start yelling and screaming or raising my voice, it violates her. He would say, well, man, listen, again, what violates you may not violate me. I have to be considerate of what she's saying to me that violates her, and vice versa. And I feel like oftentimes, like one of the things that me and my wife, we discussed, I think somebody asked us like a couple years ago, it might have been some of my family, but they was like, yeah, so are you cool with your wife having male friends and vice versa? I was like, yeah, I'm cool with it. I was like, but one of the things that we do in our marriage, one of the things that we practice is that like if I'm talking to a female friend, I'll just add her to the text, and vice versa. And a few of our married couple friends do that as well. It's like, it's all clean. I don't have nothing to hide. Whatever I'm talking about, or it's a joke or whatever, I want my wife to be a part of it, because one of the things that I don't want to breed is I don't want to breed insecurity in my marriage. And it's like, if the relationship that I have with my female friend, if I'm saying it's pure and I'm saying it's clean and I'm saying it's, it's just a friendship, I shouldn't mind my wife having access to whatever we talking about. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, and things can actually start off that way. So there was a couple of times where people that I went to school with have reached out to me like via Instagram, has sent me a message and was just like, yeah, the conversation started off really
You
like.
got to say that they were males. You said people, peoples.
I mean, I was about to make that clear that they were males.
Okay, I apologize. Go ahead.
Yeah, so some like young men had reached out, not young men because we the same age. Some strapping young men.
You're in your 20s, still young.
Oh, thank you for acknowledging that.
Well, next year, you
anyway,
be dirty 30.
I'm still 25, so we just gonna leave right there.
All right, you 30 wine. Go ahead.
You know what? Anyways, so no, a couple of like. Old schoolmates had jumped into my inbox, but it was all for some like, yeah, I see you're out here being a good mom. I see you, doing your thing. You're happily married. I want to ask you a question about marriage. So I like had the conversation, but I kept it straight, kind of to the point. I answered the question that, the gentleman had asked me. And then I quickly introduced my husband into that conversation. Not like, oh, well, let me bring my husband into the group chat. Like, Dale's now answering the chat. You know what I'm saying? Not like that. But what I said was, hey, I can only give you a wife's perspective on marriage, but my husband is more than open to talking to you about his perspective of marriage. Here is his phone number. Give him a call anytime or, reach out to him on social media or whatever. And I can let him know that you're going to do so because you know me. And so my husband ain't never get that call. And so what that showed me was just that Joker's intentions probably was not pure. You know what I'm saying? Like the conversation started off, yeah, so you and your husband real good, or are y'all really good, or y'all, kind of rocky. Like they were trying to see what was trying
to find a crack in the armor.
Yeah, trying to find a crack, most definitely. But also, too, it's like anytime I try to introduce my husband in a conversation and the person falls off, and it's not like, oh, no, my husband need to be a part of it. But it just goes to show, like, there's things that you probably shouldn't be saying to me and that you're going to cross a boundary. I'm just going to put it to you this way. I'm not going to willingly just let people into my relationship like that.
Yeah.
Like, that's something you have to be very protective over, whether they claiming to be friends. Oh, that's my sister. Or a coworker.
We talking about work. I mean, well, I guess work is different.
Either way, Dale, like, not that you're going to put me into a work conversation, but if I ask you, like, what's going on, or can I see your phone? Like, I mean, you're definitely open to, okay, well, this is what we're talking about. Or if you sitting there cracking up and you sitting across the room or on the other side of the bed, and I'm like, hey, like, look what time it is. What you laughing at your phone for? Like, you ain't laughing with me, and you be like, oh, nah, it's nothing. Nah. Like, let me see your phone. Pass the phone. But no. It don't be nothing like that. But I do, if I ask, like, hey, what you laughing at? And then are you willing to share or willing to show me? Like, you're not hiding those things or deleting text. Like, whenever you find yourself getting to that point, you've already allowed somebody else into your marriage. And that part is scary. Like, you have to protect that. And it could just be so slick, It could even be friends or even family.
And seek help, man. I've spoken to so many people that I know who are not divorced, and I'm like, hey man, why don't y'all get help? Well, my wife or my husband, they ain't believing that, or they ain't want nobody in our business. I'm like, well, now you ain't got no business for nobody to be involved in. Not to trying to throw shade, but I'm like, listen, if you're having marital issues, man, it's kind of like if you're in school and you're failing in science, or if you're failing in math, or if you're failing in whatever subject you're failing in, when you seek help, when you seek a tutor, it's common sense. Like, and I'm not trying to be funny. People are like, I don't want nobody all up in my marriage. It's like, dude, if you being involved in my marriage means that it's going to better my marriage, then get all up in that junk as it relates to like helping us get through a specific issue that we're going through and helping us walk through things out. Now, I will say that whoever the person's going to be helping you guys in your marriage, giving you guys counsel and advice, it should be a person that both parties are comfortable with. So it's like, if my wife is cool with a brother or a sister, but I don't really cool with them, I don't trust them, then it probably wouldn't be best for us to get counsel from them, you know what I'm saying, as a couple, because like I don't really rock with them members. And that's cool, you know what I'm saying? But I feel like That's one of the things that I see a lot of couples, a lot of early marriages don't do too well. I'm sorry, when they're not doing well, they're afraid, or that they don't think it's wise to seek counsel. It's like, that's foolishness. You know what I'm saying? That's foolishness. Seek counsel. If you're having areas in your marriage where you know they're not up to snuff, seek counseling. That's fine. It's no shame in that. You know what I'm saying? People do it every day. You know, a lot of people that do it are unbelievers. So it's like, as it relates to like seeking help in your marriage, you know, so there's no shame in saying, hey, I need help. You know, if anything, it's very commendable that you can even come to the place where you acknowledge that you need help and go forth with needing help.
Yeah, I want to also add that I think it'll be best that it's people that you have developed some sort of relationship with, like you know their character, you know their morals. I mean, I know that that's not always, but yes, do that first. And I say that because I know that for times like that, you're in a vulnerable situation and they could clearly take advantage. And I'm just like, I feel like anytime whoever you're seeking counsel from is not pointing you back to the Lord and your spouse, run. And I say that because anytime they're like, oh, let's try, or maybe if you try to wife swap, or maybe if you try, nah. Or maybe if I just see like your wife by themselves or the husband by themselves, it's just kind of like, I don't know. Like, especially if it's an opposite sex situation, you know, I would just be really careful of that and really mindful.
I know sometimes people may do that because they don't want to embarrass the spouse, the husband or wife in front of the other one. You know, so like, hey, brother, you are tripping, brother. You are tripping. They don't want to say
no, but you're saying brother to brother, right? Yeah. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're going to the opposite sex.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah. There's times where I've sought counsel on behalf of our marriage, and I don't know, you might have been asleep because of the work schedule, whatever, and I'm awake, or I'm just up because I'm crying about something because I'm so like upset in my emotions. And then it's just kind of like, this was still somebody that we trusted, but it wasn't male only, you know what I'm saying? Or the wife was like, their wife was involved in the conversation, or you were involved somewhere along the line in that conversation. You know what I'm saying? On top of the fact that these were also people that we trusted who were not going to take advantage of my vulnerable state. And I think that's the part that's important. It's like when you're vulnerable, especially early in marriage, like people could just come in and say all types of craziness to you. And it's just like, I think that's also another expectation that you should have, is just that a lot of people will try to like, I mean, just they don't even notice it, but they may try to pull you away from your spouse because it's almost like, I want the best for you, or, you know, I want the best for my daughter, and this don't seem like the best, and I ain't feeling like y'all should be together. And
we got that. We've actually been told that by a lot of couples that's been married 17 plus years, that, you know, early on in their marriages, certain churches that they went to, the ministry would try to break up the marriage, whatever. I feel like, you know, anytime anyone does something like that, you just got to get far away from them as possible. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, a marriage is a covenant and bond between your spouse and with God. And if any man or woman is trying to, again, unless somebody getting beat physically or is having a gun shoved down their throat, that's different. Run like hell. But if that's not happening and someone's trying to split up your marriage, then you need to just get far from them. You know what I'm saying? I think for me, one of the things that I was leery of early on in our marriage is that we just watch our words to each other. You know, people spend, you know, the first year and a half, 2 years of marriage tearing each other down verbally, and then spend the next 10 years trying to build each other back up because you've already broken certain things in the person with your words. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like I always tell my wife all the time, I have this saying that I've said to her, because I've known brothers who are ministers in the church and stuff, and they're like, yeah, brother, you know, I'm in the church Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And I'm like, bro, but you doing as much overtime as I am, you know, and sometimes I'll tell them, I'll be like, look, man, I'm not sure what notion of the gospel you believe or what you say you believe, but you need to be home spending time with your family, yo. Any godly environment or biblical, whatever you want to call it, context that keep a man or a woman from out of the home spending time with their family, that's not biblical. You know, people be like, well, you know, brother, I got to preach the gospel to the body of Christ. No, brother, your first responsibility, or sister, your first responsibility is to your wife and to your children. And if it's your woman, your first responsibility is to your husband and your children. You know, you need to be installing principles in them. And sometimes it ain't talking about God. When I'm not working, I spend a lot of time with my wife and my children, and I do that on purpose. I do that on purpose because I don't want my children growing up having any other strong influence in their life spiritually and or naturally but me and my wife. You know what I'm saying? So I devote that time and energy into them. And, even now, when my wife would tell you when my daughter was first born, I didn't do a lot of overtime. I made sure I was home a lot. I didn't do a lot of overtime. You know what I'm saying? I always tell cats, when you, first, especially, when you newly married and you have younger children, it's easier for the man just to work and just do whatever he got to do, I mean, I be seeing cats like doing different things. I'm like, man, are you ever home with your wife and children, man? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, like my God, but dudes, people don't care, man. They don't realize it becomes a foundation of your marriage where you're just not home.
What's the scripture where it says that you shouldn't even work for a year, like newlyweds?
That's Cleve. I mean, that's to leave Cleve to his wife. That's just Genesis, and not working for a year. I think that's somewhere in Deuteronomy. But back then, that culture, when people got married, they would actually spend the first year of their marriage devoted to their spouse. You know what I'm saying? And it's funny because when one of my buddies got married last year, I actually told him, I said, look, man, for your first year of marriage, man, you really need to spend a lot of time with your wife. Forget friends and family. And I'm not saying cut them off, but there is a bonding and growing and solidifying your marriage stage that a lot of people don't realize, that the American culture kind of makes it hard to do with work and other responsibilities that you may have outside the house. When you think about marriage just gets put on the back burner. So what I always encourage young men and women who are newly married, is that your first year of marriage, man, spend a lot of time with your spouse, yo. Like, all the free time you would be out spending with the boys or spending with the girls, spend it with your spouse, yo. After the first year of marriage, then you can go ahead and kind of do things at your leisure. But for that first year of marriage, man, just spend as much time as possible with your spouse.
Hold on. Don't be telling people that they can do things at their leisure after.
No.
I get what
I'm saying is, after your first year, then you could probably just speak with your spouse and see, what's permissible and what's not permissible, But that's probably should be to happen in the first year of marriage.
Yeah.
But
okay, so listen. So you're right. Deuteronomy 24:5.
I know I'm right. I know my Bible.
Anyways, sir. Okay, Deuteronomy 24:5 says, if a man has recently married, he must not be sent to war or have any other duty laid on him. For 1 year, he is to be free to stay at home and bring happiness to the wife he has married. Oh my gosh. It actually talks about happiness in the Bible. I'm going to say this.
What?
I know. Because
the Lord wants me to be happy?
That's what I'm saying.
No, I'm joking.
No, and I say that's a big thing for, not that I hadn't read this before, but a big thing for me, one thing I've been saying is just I'm like, well, the Bible don't promise happiness, but right here in the Bible, you, sir, you were supposed to be out there trying to make me happy the first year of our marriage. So I think I need a redo. I need a whole nother honeymoon. I need some rose petals, there's some chocolates, and then some back rubs too. Oh man, I don't know why that just brought me so much joy just to read that again, even though, I knew it, but it mentions happiness. But I think the scripture is saying to me that, not that you can't go to work or anything, because of course you got to provide for your family unless your family gave you a nice little,
it's just emphasizing the importance of the first year.
Yeah, because that's your foundational year.
Yeah,
so if you spend your foundational year doing
crapping around or doing other stuff that really don't matter, you know what I'm saying? Forgive me, but I'm that dude, yo. I tell dudes quick, man. People yeah, man, I'm out there preaching the gospel, whether you're a pastor or whatever. Dude, forget all that, man. You need to be home with your family. That first year of marriage, forget all that stuff. You need to be home with your family. I'm not saying forget the Lord and forget the gospel, but what I am saying is that the Lord puts priority on your family. What good does it do you to get a whole group of people saved, and in the process you lose your own family? I think sometimes people just get it. They get it twisted. You know what I'm saying? So I'm very much for preaching the gospel. My wife would tell you, I've spent countless hours talking to brothers and the Lord, praying with them, you know what I'm saying, going to their house, you know what I'm saying, me and some brothers going out of town, visit, but it's but at the end of the day, I'm also for my family, Sometimes cats forget that that's biblical. Being home with your family is actually biblical. You know what I'm saying? People are like, you know, but brother, but the Bible says preach the gospel to all the nations. Well, brother, it's biblical to just to be at home, you know, be at home with your family as well.
I mean, yeah, if you're choosing to be married, you know, then yes, that is very much so biblical. It's very interesting you say that, because I was just thinking about just how, like, we forget to be sometimes. Even with the expectations of marriage and the expectations of being like a good Christian wife, a good Christian husband, being like a mother, and just all of those things, a father, it's like we could do all the counseling that we can do, but we gotta just be. Like, I remember actually, you know, the couple that counsels us, when we first got married, actually before we got married, it was kind of like, I don't expect to see y'all at like any of the Bible studies, any of the gatherings, any of the fellowships. Like, we good, because we know that you just are being. You guys are just, you know, learning how to be a couple. You're living, and that is okay. Like, I don't expect to put any type of pressure on you guys to show up to anything. I mean, but we did still show up because that's something that we both wanted to do as a couple.
Yeah.
And I think that's what also kept us grounded in the Lord and just grounded in our marriage. But what he was saying to us was just that, just go out and be, you know, just be. Like, you have these expectations that really are unrealistic because you're just getting to know someone.
And I think, like, during the first year of marriage, a lot of men and women don't realize, but your responsibility is actually to your spouse. Like, for their spiritual needs, their psychological needs, their physical needs, everything. That's husband and wife. Your responsibility and obligation is to your spouse first and foremost. You know, so before I'm out there trying to meet a need of anybody else, whether it's a financial need or a spiritual need, my first obligation is to meet the needs of my wife, and actually my wife, and then my children if I have children. So really the other person or persons or whatever, they're actually third. You know, really it's fourth because the Lord's first. But the sake of the order, it's, you know, it's God, my wife, my children, then whoever else. But a lot of people, they put their wife and children on the back burner. And I'm saying this because oftentimes, me and my wife, that's one of the things that we see when people first year of marriage, is that they don't know how to adjust. And don't get me wrong, I made the same mistake. I made the same mistake. My wife would tell you I made the same mistake. I made it a couple of times. We would argue about it, fight about it, fuss about it. That's why people don't realize, but your first year of marriage, the expectation for your first year of marriage is, outside of work, your spouse should have all of your time. If you ain't working at the job or you ain't sleep, that's their time, you know? Then the kids, if you got kids, you know what I'm saying? So I think just for going into marriage for the first year, that's really just really very pivotal, that people just be intentional about that. You know, giving your spouse all that time that he or she wants, needs, and desires, because this is theirs. That's their inheritance. You know, they shouldn't be denied of that. A man shouldn't have to beg his wife for her time. A wife shouldn't have to beg her husband for his time. Children shouldn't have to beg their father for their time. You know what I'm saying? My wife would tell you, in the process of us going to get a house or a car, I worked like crazy. But after that stuff, after we had achieved those things, I cut the overtime out, because I recognize, and my wife will know. Like, I told my wife, hey, babe, for the next 4 to 6 months, I'll be going crazy on overtime, just so you know and understand. But we have this conversation so that when I do it, she understands. But then she also understands that it's going to become a period where I'm going to stop doing overtime and just devote my time to my wife and to her and to the family. So there's an understanding there. So there's time and seasons of your marriage where you will have to grind and will have to work a lot, whatever. But that shouldn't be your first year of marriage. That should never be your first year of marriage. Never, ever, ever be your first year of marriage. I'm sorry. It shouldn't be, you know?
Yeah.
And if someone is telling you otherwise, they're telling you wrong. And that's biblical.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I definitely enjoyed this conversation with you today.
Yeah, most definitely. Thank you guys for rocking with us. Thank you guys for supporting the podcast About This Love. We appreciate all our viewers, all those who support us. We're thinking about starting a Discord just so to kind of create a little bit more, I guess, conversation or
interaction.
Interaction. If there's any conversation that you guys would like for us to discuss, definitely let us know. We'll see if it's in our realm of scope. And, you know, just let us know, you know, what you guys like to hear. If you guys like the podcast, what you would love to see change, what you would love to see, you know, us to do something new, just definitely give us feedback and let us know. Definitely thank you for always listening to us. As always, you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook, which is the only two social media platforms that you can follow us on. And you can find our podcast anywhere where podcasts can be found. Until next time, peace.